What's going on, YouTube? I'm going to talk about my first experience with fall gardening this year. Um, it went decently. I'm going to show some pictures and just kind of talk over the pictures. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, and then let me know how y'all feel about this video. So first thing first is the sweet potatoes. Show video of the sweet potatoes before that I pulled out too early. And these is a picture of the ones that I had in a 20-gallon container, which I believe is ideal for sweet potatoes. You can grow them in 5 gallon buckets, but it seems like you can't put too many. I would suggest maybe just one. In my opinion, I would only put one. And in the 20-gallon ones, I believe you can put 2 to 3. It gives them space. And these sweet potatoes came out way better and bigger than the ones that were in the 5-gallon buckets that I did. And so the dirt wasn't as compacted, and it was a little bit looser. So you got to make sure when you're doing your dirt to make sure it's decently loose enough so they can move around in there. My other potatoes, I believe the dirt was also too packed, so they didn't grow as big also. From these sweet potatoes, I did save some, so I'm going to try to start my own sweet potatoes next this spring coming up, so they'll be more used to the climate that I have and what's going on in my environment. So therefore, next year coming up, I can probably get better quality, more out of my sweet potatoes than I did this year out of the sweet potatoes. And out of my regular potatoes, I still have some left, so I'm going to try to get more vegetables off of those and see if it works out better than it did this year. Next up is going to be the collard greens, which I've been growing since April. The same collard green plants. They still did good. Once it got back cooler, they started getting even better. So the collard green plants did wonderful this whole year for me. If you got any wonder what's the best way, I have another video that I kind of explained all the qualities of collard greens, the properties that they have for vitamins and stuff like that. But I ended up did lose pretty much the 6 collard greens I did have. I got down to 2 at the start of fall because I lost it to soft rot, and I ended up losing the last 2 to soft rot. Recently, I picked everything off of them, and that was the only problem I had out of the collard greens. And I'm going to show a picture of the soft rot coming up in a second. This is soft rot from just the rain and everything that we've been getting lately. So the stalk of the plant, you'll start seeing black speckles in it, and then it'll progress up the stalk of the plant. It doesn't always kill it off instantly, but you'll start smelling a weird smell coming off the plant. And if you look down towards the center where the leaves will grow out, you'll start seeing it's looking kind of grayish black. Then you have a soft rot problem, and it's really nothing that I found that you can do. It might be something, still new to all this, but it might be something you can do. But from what I've seen, most people just cut it off, and you have to start over or have more than one plant, and you can keep going from there. But that was the only problem I had with my collard greens during this fall, because most of the bugs disappeared. We had bug problems during spring, but other than that, they were pretty hardy plants and kept going. And those were the Georgia, can't remember, I know there's a Georgia strain of collard green. Next up on the list is kale, romaine lettuce, and salad mix, which are all just a blend of leafy greens. Everybody pretty much knows kale does pretty good in the fall, winter. It does its own thing. It's a hardy leafy green. I had curly kale, and you can use dinosaur kale and curly kale is, I believe, the 2 that most people use. Pretty sure some other ones out there. These ones did pretty good. They grew really good until the romaine lettuce, when a really bad storm came through, ended up getting bent over and not growing. The ones that I had in the garden bed, I also had some in pot and 5-gallon buckets that didn't get blown over as much as the ones in the garden bed. But for the most part, the leafy greens and the kale did pretty fine, did really good by themselves. I didn't really do much to them. besides, fertilizing with fish mix. I believe along with the fish mix, I use the Miracle Grow shake and feed that you can get from Lowe's that has a blend of egg worms and egg worm casting, sorry, calcium and some other things that's in there, and that's pretty much all I used on the kale and the romaine lettuce for the most part. I don't think I added anything else in. A lot of the watering was done by nature. Didn't really have to mess with the water that much. Next on the list is one of my family's favorite vegetables is broccoli. So I decided to grow 6 plants of broccoli, and they all did very well, I should say. They got way bigger than the ones in the grocery store, and I didn't have to do much to them besides I put the netting covering over it to keep bugs off of it. In one of the other videos, I showed putting up the covering over the top of I think it was the broccoli, some of the kale, and the root vegetables. But the broccoli itself did very good. Just planted them and they started to grow from there. Watered it, and the only thing I saw was once they're ready, and if you do not get out there and pick it right when it's ready, it'll start having some yellow spots in it. You'll get some of the flower part turning yellow or like a brownish color. You can somewhat see it in some of this picture. But other than that, the broccoli did really good. I didn't have to, I think I did the same fertilizer. I used the same fertilizer for the whole garden pretty much. So it's fish mix, the shake and feed, and I also use bone meal. And that's pretty much all I use in the garden for feeding the food. The plants, and they all came out pretty good. Some of them were a little bit smaller than others, but for the most part, I think it beats. They were bigger than the ones that you can get in the store, and the store charges you $2 or however much they charge you in the store for broccoli. So it came out really good. Now we have the one plant I was worried about trying to grow in fall and towards the winter, I guess you could say, which is the green beans, lima beans, and black eyed peas. They do not like it cold, but I didn't know when it was going to get cold here, so I decided to try to squeeze them in. I grew green beans through the spring and summer, and they came out really good. I already had a lot. I grew lima beans last year, and they grew really good, so I tried to squeeze them in, but didn't go so well because had a lot of days where it got really cold, kind of quicker than I thought it was going to get cold. So the beans don't like it when it's under, I believe, like around 50. So a lot of the green beans and the lima beans and the black eyed peas decided to when they got frost on them, they didn't bounce back very well. So I didn't get much out of the black eyed peas for sure. I didn't get any lima beans at all. The green beans, I got a few of those because they grow really fast. The Great Lake green beans, to be exact. So if you want to grow green beans, grow Great Lake green beans. They grow really good. But and I was supposed to have bush beans. Turn out the lima beans and the black eyed peas were pole beans. But once it got cold really fast, around the 50s, 40s at night, they didn't do so well, and they ended up dying off very quickly. So next year, I'm not going to try to do beans in the fall. I'm just going to grow them in spring and summer, and I learned from that mistake. So when it comes to the legumes, all your green beans and stuff like that, if it gets really cold where you are, don't grow them when it's going to get below 50s and 40s, because they're not going to make it unless you got a greenhouse or cover them up to keep frost off of them. But if it gets really cold, you just don't even grow them because it probably not going to go so well. Also, if you decide to grow black eyed peas or any kind of like pod bean, you're going to need a whole lot, because in this picture, this is pretty much the little bit that I got from The picture before is a bunch of the pods, but that's all that came out of there. So to get a significant amount of beans to feed a family, you're gonna need a whole lot of plants. Also with llamas, I believe I had um, 6 black eyed pea plants and maybe 5 lima bean plants, and I didn't get much out of them. Granted, it did get cold very fast on me. I believe last year I had 4 or 5 lima bean plants, and they produced enough for me to get a decent amount to feed me, myself, wife, and the kid. I mean, but it didn't last through winter. So if you're trying to get an abundance amount of food, you're gonna need a whole lot of black eyed peas, and lima beans, and any of those pod kind of beans. The green beans produce really well, and they produce very fast. So if you wanna, I think I had maybe 4 or 5 green bean plants, and I got plenty of green beans out of those. But if you have a bigger family, maybe go 6 to 10 green bean plants, and you should have a sufficient amount of green beans to last you for a few months. It matters how often you eat them. So hopefully that was informative about my first experience doing fall gardening for the first time. That's just the first part. I still got some other vegetables to go over. I grew cabbage, Swiss chard. It's just a few other ones. Didn't want to make a super long video for the whole shebang, so that's just part 1 of it. If you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think, and if you got any tips, let me know that too. Bikes and Gardens out. Deuces.